In professional wrestling, all matches are planned out in advance, but occasionally real fights do break out in the squared circle. And in some cases, performer at fault is severely punished, just like our first story where a wrestler with a promising future lost everything. The name Mike Bell probably doesn't ring a bell with most of you, and that's understandable, since he was used only as an enhancement talent for the WWF. In 2001, Bell was called up for a match by the corporation to showcase Perry Saturn. The match commenced with the wrestlers engaging in a series of chain wrestling maneuvers, but things quickly got out of hand when Saturn hit his head from a botched arm drag from Bell. In retaliation, the aggressive, short-tempered Saturn legitimately started attacking Bell, even throwing him outside the ring, with Bell landing headfirst on the safety mat. But even that would not quell Saturn's anger, as he then proceeded to ram Bell's head on the steel steps at ringside and continued the assault until securing the pinfall victory. Miraculously, both the wrestlers would come out of the match without suffering any harm, but Saturn would face serious repercussions for his one-man assault. The WWF was understandably upset with Saturn's behavior, and as a form of punishment, he was given the gimmick where he, fell in love with a mop.
But make a decision. The mop or me, Perry? Which one?
You're welcome.
From then on, his career took a downward spiral, where he lost any credibility because of his gimmick, and was ultimately fired by the company in 2002. Saturn would wrestle with other promotions, but could never gain his previous success. Like Saturn, another wrestler's career was completely derailed by one incident that made her hated by the entire wrestling community. The female luchador Sexy Star was making a name for herself in the independent scene, with her popularity reaching its peak when she was hired by Lucha Underground in 2014. However, all the momentum she had garnered would vanish in an instant due to an incident that made her face the glare of the entire wrestling community. In the 2017 AAA pay-per-view Triple Mania, Sexy Star would compete against 3 other female wrestlers for the championship. Star won the match by submitting Rosemary, one of the competitors, with her signature armbar. However, even with Rosemary tapping out signaling the end of the match, Star would continue her hold for many seconds, a completely unscripted move, resulting in injuries to Rosemary's triceps and biceps. Sexy Star would subsequently be stripped of her title and would face the wrath of the entire wrestling community due to her unprofessional behavior, along with tweets from big names such as Road Dogg and Cody Rhodes, resulting in her being pulled from more wrestling events. Star found success as she transitioned to boxing and MMA, but she could never recapture her former glory in pro wrestling. Even though both Saturn and Sexy Star faced severe consequences for their actions, the same doesn't hold for the next wrestler. The WWE has weekly televised programs where all storylines and characters are kept consistent so as not to confuse the audience watching on TV. But these rules grow loose in house shows where wrestlers are allowed more free reign without being concerned about their characters and storyline. However, like Hardcore Holly, some wrestlers have used this opportunity to settle personal problems. Holly, in his tenure with the company, had a reputation for being a bully in the locker room and was known for having a bad temper. In one incident, Holly got infuriated with wrestler Rene Dupree, who had received a ticket on Holly's rental car, and the two got into an argument over who would bear the fine. But Dupree soon had to pay a much heavier sum than the ticket, and he paired up with Kenzo Suzuki to face Holly and Charlie Haas in a house show. The match that had just started soon came to an end as Holly unloaded on Dupree. Haas and Suzuki tried to break up the altercation, but Holly continued his assault. The match was eventually stopped, with Dupree and Suzuki declared the winners. But the fight continued backstage, with Holly still furious over the ticket, and they had to be separated again. It's rumored that Holly was fined $10,000 by WWE for his misconduct, but was spared from being fired due to his long tenure with the company. When it comes to getting into a real fight, Brock Lesnar is one name to avoid. Unfortunately for one superstar, that's exactly what happened at the Royal Rumble 2018. At the pay-per-view, Lesnar would defend the Universal Championship against 2 other monsters, Strowman and Kane. During the match, the overenthusiastic Strowman laid a stiff knee into the Beast's head. The Universal Champion did not appreciate this move, and let Strowman know about it immediately, as Lesnar quickly got to his feet and hit a huge right hand right into the side of Strowman's head. The monster among men would later claim in an interview that he was nearly knocked out and didn't feel good for the rest of the match. Similar to Braun, another wrestler's overzealousness would cause problems in a pay-per-view. Shane McMahon is known for his enthusiastic and energetic performances, with the ability to pull off high-impact moves without injuring himself or his opponents. But in an incident, even Shane would exhibit hyperactivity. After a hiatus of several months from in-ring action after facing the Dead Man at WrestleMania, Shane O'Mac would make his return representing Team SmackDown at the Survivor Series 2016 pay-per-view. Shane would finally get his turn in the match against Jericho as he started with a barrage of punches. Though they didn't seem to be legitimate punches on television, they had force behind them, forcing Jericho to recuperate. Y2J would take a breather and try to calm down Shane, but McMahon would continue his over-enthusiastic style of wrestling until he received a boot to the face from Jericho, finally getting his message across. In another incident, a referee's quick judgment saved a superstar from embarrassment and injury on live TV. WWE's Tough Enough was a reality show where participants underwent professional wrestling training and competed for a contract with WWE. Despite not being the most popular show, it produced several future WWE stars, including The Miz, Ryback, and John Morrison. In a segment on SmackDown back in 2004, the Season 4 contestants were called up for a chance to participate in a match against Kurt Angle. As Angle finished off one of the contestants, his challenge was accepted by the UFC fighter Daniel Puder. However, Angle would have a harder time with the former cage fighter, as Puder secured a Kimura lock. Thankfully, referee Jimmy Corderas acted swiftly, making a quick 3 count to give Angle the victory, preventing the Olympic gold medalist from being embarrassed on TV and breaking his arm. Angle would later reveal in an interview that he had been vulnerable at the time, as he had just gone through his second neck surgery, so Puder's submission hold was off limits. He also revealed the fact that because of Puder's cockiness, he received an old-school beating by Holly, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Benoit at the Royal Rumble 2005, where they chopped him mercilessly for 5 minutes straight. A match turning into a shoot due to clashing egos or personal feuds is understandable, but this match left fans completely baffled. In a match on Raw in 2021, Nia Jax would face the Queen Charlotte Flair in singles competition. The pair had worked with each other before, and it was a known fact that the two were friends on amicable terms, so no one expected to see anything close to a shoot contest. The bout started in typical fashion, but as the match progressed, everyone noticed that at one point, both performers stopped selling moves and decided to start striking each other. The point of this turnaround took place when a botched back suplex from Jax dropped Charlotte at an angle with more impact than she would have liked. This was followed by no-selling moves, stiff shots, hair-pulling, and at one point they reached a standstill in utter confusion. The match finally came to an end with a very stiff powerbomb from Nia, as the uncooperative Charlotte gave up on setting the move. It was later clarified that the shoot started as a result of a miscommunication between the performers, and there was no bad blood between them, as both continued to remain friends. In 1990, Big Van Vader would go up against Stan Hansen in a highly anticipated match involving the top 2 foreign wrestlers in New Japan Pro Wrestling. The match soon turned into a stiff fighting contest amongst 2 powerhouses. It all began when Hansen would swing at Vader as soon as the big guy entered the ring, hitting him on the face and breaking his nose. This would ignite the fighters in a frenzy as the two would continue to pummel each other, with an eye gouge from Hansen popping Vader's eye from its socket. However, the big man just pushed his eye back into place and continued despite the gruesome injury. This grueling match, which blurred the lines between what's real and what's not, would be talked about for generations. At least in this match, both wrestlers participated in the shoot, but the next match switched from a wrestling contest to a one-sided brawl. Public Enemy, consisting of members Johnny Grunge and Rocco Rock, enjoyed a huge following in ECW for their wild, hardcore style and engaging antics. Their popularity peaked at events like Extreme Warfare Volume 1, where fans famously stormed the ring, causing it to collapse in celebration. Transitioning to WWE, Public Enemy faced a different atmosphere. On March 7, 1999, during a Sunday Night Heat episode, they clashed with the Acolytes, Farouk and Bradshaw, known for their stiff wrestling style. Before the match, tensions rose as Public Enemy refused a planned spot that involved them going through a table. The Acolytes, feeling slighted, responded by unleashing a barrage of brutal chair shots, clotheslines, and table spots. Despite the intense beating, Public Enemy shook hands with Acolytes backstage after the match. Their stint in WWE was short-lived, with the team released just a month later. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to Wrestle Faction for more awesome wrestling content.